For those I haven't met, I'm Barbara Sabia, and I lead the alumni and development team here at Yale Divinity School. I am delighted that you're all with us for one of the highlights of Convocation week, the Alumni Award Ceremony. I hope you've enjoyed Convocation so far, which is just a little more than halfway over. I hope you'll be with us tomorrow for the remaining festivities. Before I turn this ceremony over to our esteemed dean, who will be the master of ceremonies, I want to just take a minute to thank my team who put together this entire three-day experience for all of you. They're in the back of the room. I'd like them to stand just to say thank you to all of them. In particular, I want to recognize Jake Joseph, who's our new Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. He's been the point person for all of this, and I want to point out he's been here for only 6 weeks. So bravo to him. Again, enjoy the ceremony, enjoy the rest of your time visiting here, and I want to turn it over to Dean Sterling.
Thank you, Barbara. And I will just add my personal word of appreciation to the staff, because things have gone smoothly, and that's because you have worked very hard. People have done things that were well above the call of duty, and we appreciate all you've done. My favorite day in the academic year is commencement. And it's commencement because it's a day to celebrate the students and to send them out to change the world. My second favorite occasion is this ceremony, because in this ceremony, we are honoring alumni who have changed the world in their careers. It is more than an awards ceremony. It is an affirmation of our raison d'etre as a school. These awardees are living embodiments of the values that we hold and cherish as Yale Divinity School. They serve as exemplars for current students and for future students who will walk by what I call the Wall of Fame, where their portraits will be present, as a way of challenging them, go do likewise. So this is a great occasion, and it's a real pleasure tonight to ask one of our former recipients to lead us in our invocation. He is a talented and highly successful partner at Alexander Haas. This is a consulting firm that specializes in working with not-for-profits in North America. He has served as, well, let me just put it this way. He has served YDS and Yale for more than 40 years in various voluntary positions. Sometimes I think Alexander Haas must think he worked for Yale and not for them, to be honest. But I'll give you a few hints of what he's done. He has served as class secretary, a class agent, chair of the alumni board, a member of the Dean's Advisory Council, the Yale Alumni Fund Board of Directors, a member of Yale's current For Humanity Capital Campaign, a member of Yale Alumni Association, the past president of the Yale Alumni Association. I think he is the only YDS alum to ever be in that position. It is with a great deal of pleasure, as we honor 4 new heroes, for us to call a past hero who is still serving in that role, Jerry Henry, to lead us in our invocation.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Would you join me in a moment of reflection and prayer? O God of light and truth, we gather here this week in the sacred spaces of Yale Divinity School with hearts full of gratitude and reverence. We thank you for the precious gifts of knowledge, and spiritual growth that this institution has imparted to us, and for the hope for the future that it heralds through a new living village. We are grateful, too, for those we will be honoring this day. And we acknowledge our newest alumni and honor their work and their ministries, even the Reverend James W.C. Pennington and the Reverend Alexander Crummell, even as we finally acknowledge the sins their alma mater directed toward them. Importantly, this afternoon we gather in thankfulness for the fact that you have linked us together, alumni and alumni, administrators and faculty, students, friends, and family members, because through your Spirit we are called. We acknowledge your presence among us, O God, for it is by your grace that we have been shaped into instruments of your love, wisdom, and compassion. And we humbly ask for your guidance as we reconnect with old friends, mentors, meet new friends and colleagues, and as we embark on this journey of remembrance and celebration. Bless this gathering with your Holy Spirit, O Divine One, that this may be a time of renewal, inspiration, and recommitment to the values and principles instilled within us during our time here. And may the bonds we share with one another be strengthened, and may we continue to support and uplift each other in our respective journeys of faith and service. We pray that our actions and our words may always reflect the teachings and example of the Christ, who is our ultimate source of inspiration, hope, and love. And we offer this prayer in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Jerry. We have 5 awards tonight, which seems like so few when you consider the number of alums that we have who truly deserve to be honored. But we can only honor some. So we honor 5 on this evening. The first is an award that we don't give every year. It's the Dean's Award, which means I decide who gets this award personally. And I have a tendency to choose people who have served over a long period of time and made a real contribution to the school itself. So here is tonight's awardee. You have dedicated yourself to one of the great dimensions of YDS identity, the vocation of higher learning. This included 10 years as president of Kentucky Wesleyan College, a position that confirms the historic claim that YDS is a leading, if not the leading, and of course as dean I say the leading, divinity school for alums who go on to serve the nation's colleges and theological schools as deans, presidents, or in other major positions. There is hardly a facet of higher education that you have not worked in or touched. Alumni relations, fundraising, education management. You graduated from Ohio Wesleyan University before arriving at YDS in 1968. Your higher education career began as soon as you received your Master of Divinity. You immediately became director of the Agents Program for the Yale Alumni Board, or Fund. 2 years later, Yale named you director of Alumni Records, where you guided all aspects of operational support for alumni relations for the next 15 years. Meanwhile, in your spare time, you earned a Ph.D. in Higher Education Administration from the University of Connecticut. This took you to higher levels of administration. You served as a vice president at Goucher College in Baltimore, and then for a decade, from 1994 to 2004, as mentioned, you were president of Kentucky Wesleyan University. When you retired, you returned back to your alma mater, becoming Director of Graduate School Capital Giving, culminating more than 40 years in college leadership, especially in two vital areas of institutional life, a university's financial health and its cherished alums. Officially retired now, you can still be found sitting in on Yale classes, serving on the Whitney Center Board, as well as rallying your YDS cohort to support the school as a class agent for the class of 1971. And last but not least, serving on the YDS Alumni Board. The Dean's Outstanding Service Award is given periodically by the Dean of the Divinity School to a member of the YDS community who, through words and actions, has had a positive impact on the community. This year, we are very proud to honor Wes Holing.
Thank you, Dean Sterling, for this unexpected honor. Having served with so many extraordinary YDS alumni, I'm certain there are others who deserve this award. Nonetheless, I am humbled and honored to receive it. A couple of things. One, I want to thank YDS for putting me on my career path in higher education administration years ago, and also for nurturing and instilling in me an understanding of the importance of service. And second, I want to thank you personally, Dean Sterling, for this recognition. But more importantly, I want to thank you for the extraordinary leadership you have given to our Divinity School. Thank you. I've provided service for YDS simply because I was asked. When I was offered the opportunity to join the Alumni Board and serve YDS, an institution of great import and value and distinction, and then when I was asked later to take on the role of class agent for the great class of 1970, when you forgot that adjective, the only response I could come up with was to answer yes. Because we all know that working for and serving a place like YDS is a privilege and an honor, an opportunity to give back and help further the work and the mission of YDS. What else could I have said? So thank you, YDS, and thank you, Dean Sterling, for this special award. Coming from your hands is especially meaningful to me. Thank you.
And now we will have the awards for the Alumni Association, and they will be presented by former winners of those awards, which is especially nice to have tonight. And Wilma Richard is going to present the first in theological education.
Carolyn Sharp, you are professor of homiletics at YDS. I know you know that. And you're an Episcopal priest and a biblical scholar. For 17 years, you have taught Hebrew scriptures at Yale, the first woman at YDS ever tenured in the Hebrew Bible. I get really kind of weepy when I think about all that you've done. Then you shifted vocationally to homiletics, making history again. To be a full professor in 2 disciplines in succession at YDS, that had never been done before, but you did it. To teach and write professionally in 2 quite different fields at Yale, that is uncommon, to say the least. But it's not a surprise. Students talk about your zest for teaching across boundaries and the artful way you stir their sense of calling to ministry and scholarship. You joined the YDS faculty in 2000 after earning a Yale Ph.D. in the Hebrew Bible. In 2007, you were honored with the Fortress Press Teacher of the Year Award for innovative teaching in the graduate level. After years of teaching the Hebrew Scriptures, you discerned an expansion of that initial vocation, now to include teaching and writing about the Gospels, Christian preaching, and ecological justice. This rounded out the arc of your calling to nurture a message of grace and mercy for contemporary times, to discover how the Hebrew Bible could enrich Christian preaching, and to speak to feminist perspectives of power and motivate urgent environmental action. By 2012, you were ordained in the Episcopal Church. In 2017, you became a professor of homiletics. You're a rock star. You've written and edited a dozen books with a special affection for the Hebrew prophets. In recent years, you've published biblical commentaries, one on Joshua, another on Jeremiah 26:50-52, and a commentary on Micah currently is in press. Another of your books provided an introduction to biblical prophetic literature. Your current book project examines the Gospel of Matthew as a rich resource for counter-imperial preaching. Your sermons at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in New Haven, where you are the preacher in residence, are models of high-spirited exegesis and heartfelt communication. You are a gifted writer, editor, and mentor. In a YDS article by Emily Judd, you offered vibrant advice to future faith leaders, and I quote, First, stay present to the staggering beauty of complexity. Cherish the intricacies of every psalm, every theological argument, and every family's hesitant steps towards healing. And second, engage centering prayer. Dare to encounter the one who is beneath and beyond the narrative you are continually scripting in your own life. What unfolds will astonish you. One of the finest traditions of YDS is its commitment to excellence in every dimension of theological education. This award recognizes graduates whose scholarship, teaching, and leadership and contributions to vocational formation for ministry reflect the best of YDS and its distinguished faculty. This year, the award goes to Professor Carolyn Sharp.
You. It is an extraordinary privilege to be part of the teaching, learning, and formation that go on in this place. I arrived on campus in June of 1991 as a first-year student eager to take summer Hebrew. This place was venerable in several senses, Some of you here may remember the worn marble stairs leading up to the Old Testament lecture hall, the fixed pews, yes, fixed pews in Marquand Chapel, the battered wooden tables in the old refectory. Summer Hebrew met in a quite unrenovated basement classroom. I don't even know if you know where it was, where it would have been, Greg. Beneath Niebuhr Hall. The windows were painted shut, and plaster dust would sift down onto the table as we studied. But I was in heaven, captivated by the gorgeousness of biblical Hebrew and later the beauty of Koine Greek. I loved how Professor Bob Wilson relished ancient Hebrew narrative. I was moved by the passion of Brevard Childs, who thundered that we must read Isaiah theologically. Otherwise, we're not reading the book of Isaiah. And I was inspired by the intellectual humility of Professor Rowan Greer, with whom I took every course I possibly could in patristics, early Christian spirituality, and Anglican theology. Those were my models when I joined the faculty in 2000, an idealist eager to contribute all I could to sophisticated textual study and emancipatory pedagogy. There were towering feminist theologians here in those days: Letty Russell, Margaret Farley, Serene Jones. Change was afoot. But many areas of the curriculum back then were quite unrenovated, just like that basement classroom in which I took summer Hebrew. I wanted to make a difference. I really did, and it has been a profound blessing to be able to give myself to that work in this place. I'm so grateful to the deans under whom I have served, especially Harry Attridge, former dean, and now Greg Sterling, steadfast in his support of faculty and every dimension of research, writing, and teaching. I'm grateful also to Emily Bakemeyer in the Provost's office for supporting my move to homiletics, a beautiful new terrain in which I know fresh joy every single day. I must mention our children, Dinah and Jake, and my cherished life partner, Leo Lensing, long-suffering and faithful companions all on this journey. When I first joined the faculty, what I never imagined was how much my students would teach me about vulnerability, courage, and emancipatory practices. To you, to our brave and visionary students and graduates, I owe more than I could possibly say. Thank you so much.
Our next award is in Congregational Ministry, and the current chair of the Alumni Board and a former winner of this award is going, no, a different one, okay. Sorry, but you did win one, is Jason Turner.
I'll await getting my picture put up in the hallway since I'm Jeffrey Haggray. You personify healing vision for church life in an era of political and racial upheaval, where others have despaired or wandered away from denominational witness. You've used a prophet's voice to give leadership and imagination to congregations. You've been the pastor of several American Baptist churches. You've served various denominational and ecumenical entities. This includes working for environmental justice with the Baptist World Alliance and racial justice with the National Council of Churches. These skills require micro-level attention and macro-level creativity. In your work, you have fielded challenges ranging from church transformation and chaplaincy to issues of refugee resettlement, disaster response, religious liberty, and restorative justice. In other words, the great array of things that people of faith are called to do in the world. Currently, you are executive director of the American Baptist Church's Home Mission Society. In that role, you are also CEO of Judson Press and denominational director of Public Witness and Advocacy. Across these many arenas, you have preached a message of gospel hope and fearless vocation. As you said, to pursue humanitarian purposes is to be in the very presence of God. You point to the life of civil rights hero John Lewis as an exemplar, a person of faith who finds their mission in life by hearing the summons, interrogating their own hidden fears and hesitations, and finding the freedom to act. Your faith in the power of congregational life flows into your spiritual politics, your ideas of beloved community and responsible citizenship. More than a decade ago, in Reflections Journal, you made a plea to America's politicians to respect the nation's deepest wounds and dreams and act upon them. You said, we need to replace fear-mongering with a renewed commitment to the importance of diverse people from all walks of life coexisting in a spirit of peace, community, and faith in God and one another. I challenge us all to learn anew the importance of caring for one another as human beings who are made in God's image. We have yet to live up to the challenge God places before us. That was in fall of 2012. Your prophetic words still wait to be heeded. At the heart of YDS is the commitment to train people for the lay and ordained ministries. The award for distinction in congregational ministry annually goes to an individual who has shown exceptional pastoral competence in the work of the mission of local congregations. This year, we're pleased to honor the Reverend Dr. Jeffrey Haggray.
Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, Dean Sterling, for this, and Yale Divinity School for this recognition. I'm very honored to be here today. I was sitting there thinking that I arrived in New Haven in 1985 at the age of 22, the weekend of my 22nd birthday, fresh out of college, rented a Chevrolet Impala, and with fear and trembling as my caffeine drove nonstop from Savannah, Georgia to New Haven, Connecticut, a place I'd never been before. The notice they had sent us by mail suggested that we arrive anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. I had no concept of how long it took to get to New Haven or when I would ever get there. I got here about 11:30 on a rainy night. And found my way to the Divinity School and was afraid that I would probably spend the night sleeping in the car because of the hour that I'd arrived. But I had the name of the building, and I thought, well, I should just drop in just in case. There was a man named Mr. Wood who worked in the building in those years. Anybody remembers him? And it was 11:30 at night. I don't know what possessed me to knock on the door of the office, but he was in there, and he said, I've been waiting on you. And I felt at home. showed me to my room in Hopkins, where the ANS office is right now. And I pretty much stayed there the whole 3 years. I refused to leave that room. And when I think of Yale Divinity School, I think of people, the faculty, Gaylord Noyce, who was in Congregational Studies, who was quite an inspiration to me, and he introduced me to local area pastors such as T.E. Holmes at Community Baptist Church, Jason, Dr. Cofield at Emmanuel Baptist Church, Dr. Edmonds at the Congregational Church in Dixwell Avenue. And those local pastors, by the way, really fostered a sense of community for Yale seminarians in those days. And I think of the faculty like Brevard Childs. My favorite was Abraham Malherbe, who introduced me to the phrase, the concept of the church as the ongoing incarnation of Christ in the world. Brevard Childs, Robert Wilson, Dr. Cornell West was here in those days teaching Afro-American critical thought. A pastor from Mamaroneck, an AME Zion Church, Dr. Leon Watts, taught homiletics. Harry Baker Adams, Leander Keck was dean. Rowan Greer, Letty Russell, Margaret Farley. When I think of Yale Divinity School, I think of those people. They, for me, constituted Yale Divinity School. I lived on campus the entire time. I designated a table in the library as my table on the second floor there, little round tables. And I literally left my stuff there. And the word on the street was, that's Jeff Haggray's table. And I would let you sit with me, but it was my table. And then when the library was full, people did join me from time. I said, oh, sure, you may sit right there. Make yourself home. And in those, Yale Divinity School prepared me for congregational ministry, prepared me for leadership in the church, provided the theological, ethical, historical foundation that I needed to engage the world with a sense of confidence. Having entered the ministry very young, I was only 17 when I acknowledged a call to the ministry, so I went straight from undergraduate school into seminary and finished now 35 years ago. It's really hard to believe that I graduated from here 35 years ago. I hardly feel 35, but feel very blessed. I'm thankful for this recognition, thankful to the churches that have allowed me to pastor over the years, from Pleasantville, New Jersey to Washington, D.C., where I spent most of my years, a church in Atlanta, Georgia that I pastored. It's always good when they invite you back. And now the opportunity to serve with the American Baptist Home Mission Societies, working with congregations throughout the United States of America and Puerto Rico. So thank you so much. I'm sitting on the front row. Anna Newton, Yale Divinity graduate, Abner Cotto Bonilla, who finished here, and he is now on the staff of the Home Mission Societies. I met Abner when he was a student here, and he made a point each time of introducing himself to me. He was as an American Baptist, and I don't think he realized that I knew who he was. Finally one day I said, yeah, you're Abner, I know who you are, I got you. I got you. And what that means today is now he's a leader on our staff at the American Baptist Home Mission Societies. Seated beside him is the director of our scholarship, of our national coordinator for emerging leaders and scholarships, Ms. Alexandria Sanchez of Philadelphia. I point them out because my greatest passion at this stage of my life is to try to impact emerging leaders. There's nothing more I want for myself. Everything that was on my checklist of dreams, I've checked. I have no additional. I have 3 kids. I wish the best for them, and I do all I can for them. But beyond my own 3 children, if I can help somebody else as they travel along, help somebody with a word or song, help somebody who's traveling wrong, my living won't be in vain. Thank you very much.
Well, Jason, someday you'll get this award. To present our next award, the William Sloane Coffin Award, I call on Gabby Cujo-Wilkes, whom I think we all know.
Marylouise Oates, Oatesy to us. Here tonight and to the world at large, you've brought the skills of a journalist to a historic era in American life, and you've done it with great gusto, curiosity, and heart. Writer and activist have been your mainstays, but those words don't fully cover the impact of your passion for advocacy across 6 decades. In 1964, as UPI's youngest national reporter, you covered the Democratic Convention and the Philadelphia race riots. You've kept a sharp eye on politics and society ever since, focusing on people who suffer because of bad public policy or historic hatreds. As Lauren Yanks wrote about you in her YDS article, you learned about righting wrongs from your parents. Your father, a union organizer. Your mother came from a political family. As the 1960s convulsed, you were there. You joined Eugene McCarthy's 1968 presidential bid as a press secretary. You covered the Poor People's Campaign. You were a leader in the Vietnam moratorium movement. In 1970, you and YDS found each other. Your Yale experience sharpens your ethical questions and gospel framework. You did not pursue the ministry, but Harry Adams taught you how to preach anyway. It would come in handy. Your inquiring spirit rampaged through the decades. You worked for Lutheran Social Services and California Rural Legal Assistance. You pitched stories to the Los Angeles Times and soon became a society columnist there. You brought in traditional society page themes to include affordable housing, HIV/AIDS awareness, getting the attention of Betty Ford and Elizabeth Taylor. As old Yale friendship later had international impact. In the 1990s, you collaborated with First Lady Hillary Clinton in the Vital Voices Initiative, which invests globally in female leadership. Your heart for women's empowerment continues. In Los Angeles, you spent time at the Downtown Women's Center. In 2016, you created a YDS scholarship for mid-career women who want to go into ministry. The list goes on. You worked to advance peace in Northern Ireland. You're a novelist, a memoirist, a university-acclaimed chef. In short, a human dynamo and a treasure to Yale Divinity School. The William Sloane Coffin Award commemorates the former chaplain to the university and one of the great religious leaders of the 20th century. The award recipient shares Coffin's prophetic witness, a courageous devotion to the dignity of all persons, and has contributed significantly to the work of peace and reconciliation. We are excited this year to honor Marylouise Oates.
I have other speeches here, so I'm going to turn them over so I don't start reading somebody else's talk. Wouldn't be the first time. I am honored and delighted at this award, and I am delighted what Dean Sterling and his staff have done to enrich the life of YDS. This ain't the place I went to in 1970, I can tell you that. It is a whole different ballgame. I knew Bill Coffin, knew his dedication and determination, knew his commitment to the best in ourselves and each other. The strength of his religious faith was matched only by the strength of his political commitment. Politics and religion have a lot in common. Both are aspirational. Both are inspirational. It's hard in these days of violence, crime, racism, and anger to, as we said in the 60s, keep your eye on the grapes. When we don't have an inspirational force, no Bill Coffin, no Dr. King, no real Bobby Kennedy, no Dorothy Day, no George Wiley, I think we have to move on to the aspirational. We have to focus on what we hope to change. We have to line up others who feel the way we do. We have to avoid the nitpicking squabbling that separates the climate folks from the LGBTQ community, the feminist health advocates, from the electoral PACs and partisans. We have to bring to our activism, to our activist works, a holistic and sacramental regard for other people doing good, even if their issues don't exactly match up to ours. I think it's fair to say that Jesus was a generalist, as well as a leader who was as quick to forgive as to foment. And through it all, we have to remember the words of the Reverend William Sloane Coffin, Jr. The world is too dangerous for anything but truth, and too small for anything but love. I want to acknowledge a few people. I want to acknowledge the nuns who taught me. I went to a convent day school on Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia, and the order was the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, and they had habits on that were like French peasant women, and they couldn't ride on buses. They were semi-cloistered. And they wore around their necks these large wooden crosses, I mean big, like this. And on them it said, "Que bon est le bon Dieu." How good is the good God? And I have to say, I have carried that in my heart my whole life. I want to acknowledge my husband, Robert Trump, who in his own life sought to make better the life of the world and wrote some pretty good things while he was at it. And I thank YDS for this award. I only hope I can live up to the standards of all my classmates who have contributed so much to so many over the years. Thank you very much.
Oates and Robert have a great line. I had dinner with them in LA a good number of years ago now, and they brought their own wine to the dinner table. And I said, "Really?" And they said, "Yes, life is too short to drink cheap wine." So I've used that many times since then. For our last, but by no means least award, the chair of the awards committee, Jimmy Canton, will make the presentation.
Richard Mollica, you are a physician, professor of psychiatry, and for decades now a global pioneer in the healthcare and healing of traumatized populations. Up close, whether in Cambodia, Bosnia, Italy, Japan, or after 9/11 in the US, you have faced some of the world's deepest hurts, as well as its greatest longings for peace. For more than 40 years, you have focused on the needs of survivors of torture and mass violence, their physical injuries and health, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorders. Under your direction, the Harvard Program in Refugee Trauma has led efforts in clinical care and training, certificate programs, policy reforms, and research benefiting people who've endured horrific atrocity. Your message is one of hope in the power of human resilience. Your work has taught you that people can recover from unspeakable violence. This was something you had to teach the psychiatric field, which long assumed that victims of violent horrors could not be healed. Your writings make the argument that we all have a role in healing our societies. In 2018, you wrote the text for a book-length manifesto on healing a violent world. You called on healers of every type to reduce the pain of human suffering by following a greater vision of empathy and nonviolence. You stressed the pathway of justice as a vital force for human meaning and advancement. The pursuit of justice is intense, often tragic, yet transformative. You argue, too, that the experience of beauty should have a role in health. Indeed, you've written, "There is no healing without beauty." Your training has taken you all over the world. You received your medical degree from the University of New Mexico in 1973 and completed your psychiatry residency at Yale Medical School. While at Yale, you also earned an M.A.R. from YDS in 1979. Your life's work reflects a passion for global healing and a respect for the human spirit. In your book, Healing Invisible Wounds, Paths to Hope and Recovery in a Violent World, you write, "The trauma survivor reminds us all of our own vulnerability to tragedy and of the potential for society to abandon us. But another way is possible, as the story of victimization becomes a story of courage, and the story of damage becomes a story of recovery." The Lux at Veritas is awarded for excellence and distinction in applying the compassion of Christ to the diverse needs of the human condition through the wider church, ecumenical organizations, not-for-profit groups, government, or industry. We are so proud to give the award this year to Dr. Richard Mollica.
Wow, I'm speechless. I want to begin by saying that I never thought that I would have this calling. Father Zanotti and Father Collins, because I served Mass until I was 17 in Latin Mass, they said, "You'd get the calling." 2 weeks ago, it came from the dean. And I said to myself, I can't believe it. After all these years, I finally got the calling. And then it was in Latin, Lux est Veritas. Unbelievable. And then I said, what an honor. I never thought as a medical doctor I would get to give a 3-minute sermon at Yale Divinity School. This is my dream. So I hope I'm going to say a little prayer at the end from St. Francis. Is that okay? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. My hero. Dean Sterling, members of the Yale Divinity School, thank you for this great honor. The Yale Divinity School has always been a beloved institution to me. Look at this here. I have cherished the M.A.R. letters after my medical degree. I've kept it from the moment I received it. Look at it, it's there. Beautiful, isn't it? I'm so proud of those letters. Little did I know when I chose the joint degree in psychiatry and divinity at Yale in 1974 that my Yale Divinity School education would play a major role in pioneering the new medical field of refugee mental health. This school is responsible for the new field of refugee mental health. I'm going to explain how. The world is facing a refugee crisis, the greatest since World War II. This crisis is fueled by war, ethnic conflict, national disasters, and climate change. I don't have to tell you this. And to this crisis, ecocide, the killing of plants and animals all over the world. And we have entered the enormity problem, a problem so big that human beings go unconscious just thinking about solutions, right? We have so many problems, we just think, oh, we go unconscious. But the Yale Divinity School has taught us how to find the spiritual power to continue this journey of healing and recovery. As a medical doctor, I have witnessed unspeakable atrocities, and this is very important, that only trust in God can heal. I'm just a little doctor, but God could heal what I could not heal, and what our staff could not heal. This is the important message. I'll give you an example. A Vietnamese ex-political detainee who was severely tortured right after the Vietnam War, who was my patient for years, was forced to live in a barrel for over a year, a little barrel. He was put in it every night. Only his spiritual faith, and this is so moving, and his love of the frogs singing at night kept him alive. Isn't that gorgeous? He loved those frogs. They kept him alive. Can you imagine being every night stuck in a barrel this big and for a year as a form of torture? I had many, many patients like this. In our Italian family, we are taught to stand on the soldiers of the great ones, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our ancestors, and of course, our wonderful Harvard program staff and our patients, my wonderful wife, Dr. Karen Carlson, my two sons, Nick and Chris, and our wonderful dogs, Lucy and Rosie. The Lux et Veritas Award is also an honor to all my teachers at Yale. They created me, created the field of refugee mental health, and want to explain how. I would have to shout out to my mentor, Professor Fritz Redlich, Chairman and Dean of the Yale Medical School, who supported our work until the day he died. I was driving down to see him when he was 99. He died before I got there, and he used to say to me, Rich, I have absolutely no idea what you're doing, but I'm 100% behind you. Sister Margaret Farley, who I loved, who was my teacher every year for 5 years, the great phenomenologist and ethicist who taught us new ways of scientific thinking. Bracketing. Don't listen to anything. Put a bracket around it. Right, that's Margaret, you know. The great Reverend Henry Nouwen, who said I had to see him at 5 a.m. in the morning for supervision, who was author of The Wounded Healer, who gave us Thomas Merton's contemplative prayer, which played a major role in our work. The Yale Dean, Henry Adams, who believed in me so much because I was in this joint program, that when I wasn't going to get my degree, because I had to go to England, and I had one paper to finish, and I said, forget it, I'm going to give up my degree. He called me up, he said, Richard, you have a paper to finish. I said, yeah, but I'm a medical doctor. He goes, I'm giving you 3 months to get it done. I'm the dean, right? I wouldn't be here today if he hadn't called me up. Can you imagine the dean of Yale Divinity School calling up a young psychiatrist and saying, I'm behind you? Isn't that beautiful? I know you're like that. I know you're. I want to give a shout out to the Reverend Jim Washington, who you didn't know. He died young, an African-American professor who taught me the importance of storytelling and slave narratives. You know, I introduced in 1988 the trauma story. That partly came from Jim's love for slave narratives and storytelling. And finally, I would like to honor my great friend and spiritual advisor, the Dr. Reverend Jerry Streets, former chaplain at Yale. Jerry and I met in Reverend Washington's class in 1974 and have had a lifelong journey together. And in fact, he married Karen and myself in Boston. Yeah, and he's been my spiritual advisor all these years. you know. And I love Jerry, and his family, it's incredible. So is it okay? I'd like to end with my favorite prayer that blesses our program, the Harvard program in refugee trauma, because we're in love with St. Francis, you know, because he was the first ecologist, from my point of view, who said animals were more than just things you eat, you know, and who believed they were God's creatures, right? And we really need that. I know you have this beautiful thing, Apostles for Climate Change. I want to give a shout out for that. That's so exciting to me, you know. So I want to read a little bit of this prayer by Sister Fox, a Benedictine nun, who gives this Franciscan benediction, just a small piece of it. May God bless us with tears to shed for those who suffered pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that we may reach out our hands to comfort them and to turn their pain into joy. This is our saying, there's no healing without beauty. And we find great wisdom and wonderful spirituality in our patients who have suffered unspeakable atrocities, you know. And may God bless us, I know this is a principle of the Divinity School, with just enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in the world, so that we can do what others claim cannot be done. I was told in 1981, when I started the refugee clinic, torture survivors were untreatable. Can you imagine that? Completely wrong. And of course, I used Margaret Farley's bracketing to discover that that statement was wrong, you know. I mean, she was a great phenomenologist, and we all loved Margaret. You know, she's a fantastic woman. So that we can do what others claim cannot be done, right? Do the impossible, right? To bring justice, and if I want to end this, I've modified this with permission. I didn't ask Sister Fox permission, but to bring justice and kindness to all our children, to the women of the world who have experienced unspeakable violence. It's unbelievable what's going on in the world towards women in the world. To all of our neighbors who are poor, and finally, this is our big focus now, and I've added this, to the world's plants and animals who share with all of us 150,000 mirror neurons. That's a little medical side coming in. Can you imagine that every plant and animal shares with us 150,000 mirror neurons? This is the basis of empathy. This is the basis of what you guys are doing here. You know, that every human being is part of a nature. And every human being can love every other human being, because we share 150,000 mirror neurons in our brains. Can you imagine this? Let's get this out, you know? Let's get this message out, you know? So I'm thrilled. I know Father Zanotti and Father Collins would be thrilled I'm here, that I finally got the calling from Greg Sterling. Thank you so much.
So now I'm going to ask if you would join me in one last very enthusiastic round of applause for all of our awardees. William James, a rather famous professor from Harvard, said, "The great use of life is to spend it for something that will outlast it." And that's what all 5 of you have done. You have given your lives for things that will outlast your lives. And we are so very grateful that you are living embodiments of the values we hold sacred and dear to our hearts. Thank you. One last thank you. Will the members of the awards committee stand up? This is a lot of work. There are about 8,500 alums. So would you stand up? Yes.